Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm gonna show you how to create a simple and dynamic Excel model. So let's get started. So basically what we're going to do is to solve the following problem. We'll assume that you have a loan of £10,000 and we'll try to solve how long it will take you to save this amount of money and pay back your loan. So one thing that is really important when you build a model is to make sure to separate all of the parameters from the calculation. So you need to put all of the inputs separately to make sure to do it in a very clean and nice way, simple way but clean, with the units, with the values, and you do the calculation separately. And the reason is you don't want to use Excel as a simple calculator. You don't want to come here in this cell and calculate let's say your salary, then you reduce it by your rent and so on and so forth. Because then let's imagine that you have a lot of parameters. You will have like 5 or 10 numbers here. Then if you want to change them, you will it will be really difficult to like figure out what did you build in the first place, and then you will be lost. So what I always recommend is to be structured, and it's really easy, but it saves a lot in terms of time and in terms of flexibility of your model. So as you can see here, I defined the income assumptions, the expenses, and also the target saving that comes from our problem statement. And also for the rent, I wanted to keep the flexibility of choosing where to rent, and we have different rent prices for each of these locations. So again, another thing that is really important is try to use color coding to differentiate between the assumptions that you will directly hard code in Excel and the formulas. This will help you avoid like overwriting over a formula or doing some kind of manipulations that can basically break your model. Okay, so two things here for the rent. The first one is that I created a drop-down list that gives me the possible locations. And here I used a Vlookup function to basically choose the corresponding rent based on the location that has been chosen in the model. So as you can see, when I switch from one to the other, we can see that the rent value is different. So let me delete this formula and do it again with you. So VLOOKUP is really an interesting formula in Excel, and you will find yourself using it a lot. So what it does is that it can give you a corresponding value to a value that you want to look for. So in our case, we have this simple table here, and we have a rent value for each of the locations. So the first thing that we need to look for is the location that has been chosen. So this is the first argument that you give VLOOKUP. The second one is that you put the table where the formula will try to look for the value. Please keep in mind that the formula will only look in the first column, the one at the very left of your table. So your values should be in this column. Now that you have the table as well, you need to provide VLOOKUP the number of the column that you will need the value from. And in our case, the rent is in the third column. As you can see here, it's the first one, this is the second one, and this is the third one. So we will enter 3. And the last one is basically to choose if you want an exact match of the value that you provided or an approximate match. I would always recommend to use an exact match if you look for something specific, to avoid the formula providing some kind of weird values. Okay, so now that our parameters are clear, we will move to the calculation. So now we will run the calculation. So the first thing that I want to do is to calculate my monthly recurring income, then my monthly recurring expenses, then subtracting these two will give me the monthly savings. Then I have this line that I put in blue where I can hard code some exceptional expenses. So let's say that, in June, I want to buy a laptop and I wasn't expecting to do it. So I will just enter the value here and it should be subtracted from my savings. And lastly, the last column will be to calculate the cumulative savings, like month over month. So let's start with the first one and do it very easily. So the formula is as follows: this plus this. Now, what I want to do is to drag this value up to December 2022. But what happens here is, as you can see, I have 0. So the reason is that Excel is pretty smart. So when you move a formula, Excel will also move with you the corresponding parameters that you were using. So what you want to do here in our particular case is to lock these cells so that they don't move with your formula. So the way to do this is to use F4. So if you click on F4, you have these $2 signs that add to the cell, one before the line number 11 and one before the column letter D. So if you keep pressing on F4, you can, as you can see, you can block either the column or the line or both of them or none of them. So make sure to do the one that is relevant to you. So now that we have this, if we drag the formula, then we will definitely have our number appearing in every month. The second thing is the monthly recurring expenses, and here I will directly use the formula sum because I have quite a few of them, so I don't want to keep writing plus plus plus. Of course, don't forget F4, and then you can drag this again until December. And now we can easily calculate the difference. Okay, this will give me the monthly savings, and here let's say we buy a laptop, as I was saying, in June, that costs £1,000. Let me just correct this quickly. Okay, super. Now let's calculate our cumulative savings. So basically the cumulative savings will be the savings of every month minus the exceptional expenses, if there is any, plus the savings from the previous months. Like every month I will just add the additional saving of this specific month and reduce if there is any additional expense, and I will keep accumulating them. So the formula is as follows. So I will check the monthly savings, I will reduce them by the exceptional expenses if any, and I will add to that the savings of the previous month, which is the same line basically. Here we don't need to lock the formula because if we drag it, we want the parameters to also move with our formula. So now if I move this up to December, as you can see, I have, a small wealth that is getting built. Okay, now, as you can see, it is quite difficult to repay the loan because even by December, we don't really reach our targets. So we have a couple of things to do. This can be also a decision-making tool. I can say, okay, you know what? I need to find another source of income. Maybe I will work on weekends and I will try to generate an extra 300 per month. Okay, now it's interesting. As you can see, I have the 10,000 in October 2022. And if I manage to get this extra 300, then I will be able to pay back my loan. Another thing that I can do is, you know what? Instead of living in the city center, I will just live in the edge of the city. So I will save £200 per month. And this will make even my savings a bit earlier. So I will reach the 10,000 mark by September 2022. So this is the kind of tweaks that you want to do. Lastly, maybe just to make this a little bit more visual, what I can do is apply a conditional formatting. So here, what I want to do is to create a rule, and for every value, so here you can format the cells that contain some specific values, and for every value that is greater or equal to basically the 10,000, and here I suggest that we use directly the cell instead of writing 10,000. It will work as well, but if for any reason this target saving changes, you want it to change as well with your formatting. So here, if anything is greater than 10,000, this is the formatting that I will do. So I will fill with green, and maybe just to make it easy to read, I will have a white text. Okay, cool. So as you can see here, visually it will be easier to find the 10,000, and you can know that starting from September you will have enough money to pay back your loan. And of course, if we change this, let's move back to the city center, then everything is dynamic, everything changes automatically. So let me just stop here. This was just an easy exercise to show you how you can structure your Excels. So remember, you always need your parameters to be very clean, very precise, and like separate from your calculations. And you want to have the calculation that is done separately. The other thing that you also want to do is play with the formatting to have something that is easily readable and understandable. And that's it. So if you guys want me to cover anything specific on Excel, just leave it in the comments below and subscribe to this new channel if you want to see more of this content.